Hello and welcome to another episode of TesterSpeak, and I'm your host Brijesh Dev. With me on the screen is Seema Prabhu, whom I met very recently, about a couple of months ago. Seema, I guess, and it was because she had some questions and she messaged me, and we had a call and we started talking, and then I realized that she needs to be on TesterSpeak. That's how she got here. She is a very active member of the Test Chat community, giving very insightful comments. So here we are in the quest for wisdom from Seema. Welcome, Seema.
Thank you so much, Rajesh. Thank you for having me on TesterSpeak. And I think most of all, thank you for replying to my message when I first messaged you. I didn't expect a response, but I think that has just led me to um, Test Chat community, which was a world I wasn't aware of. And I'm glad to be a part of it today. Uh, the best part has been I've it's never so active, and your encouragement kept me going. Um, but I think the community itself, just to be clear, I think it is a wonderful example of what the Ubuntu culture. I
Mm.
am because we are. It's so much of sharing, so much of helping each other, um, and discussions, agreeing, disagreeing. And most of all, I think what I really like is we question. We don't accept everything as they are. And I think that's most important rather than just saying, yeah, that's how it's been, let's just move on. And I think that change is really good. And thank you for bringing me to this.
Well, like I said, I mean, when I spoke to you for the first time, I kind of made up my mind, and then my my belief was, in a way, reinforced when you joined the community and you started commenting on posts and responding to questions and asking more questions. So here we are. Well, before I ask you any question, I see a huge rack of books behind you.
Yes.
That makes me curious. What sort of
I've,
book do you read?
I've been an avid reader since childhood. I read a lot. And it used to be a lot of fiction earlier, then changed to biographies. I still read biographies. And now it's more of soft skills, uh, some technical books. I try and read different things just to get a perspective, because technical we get a lot. There's Google, you can read a lot. There's so many articles, so many courses, so many things that you can read on. But what comes in books is world apart. And it's been my best friend for many years.
How
So
many books have you read?
I don't have a count of it, but this
10,000?
last shelf is from the last year, I think. Yeah. There's more. There's more.
Okay, so what are you currently reading?
Currently reading, I finished Courage to Be Disliked, and I've started reading. Um, there's so many. Oh God, I've started reading Inspired. It's about product management.
Can you show the book?
Inspired.
Ah, okay. That one big fat book. Okay.
Yeah, don't know. I like it. So
Well, it's awesome to see those books, and that is a good habit to have, reading. And I realized it very late that reading was a good habit, and I try and read whenever I find time. I don't have a collection of books like this. I have most of my content on my devices, so I read online, uh, but I read. Yeah. So, why testing, and how did you begin as a tester?
Okay, it's not been, it won't be a typical answer. So if you're ready for it, um, I studied chemical engineering from Bangalore, and at the end of it, the choice was either to continue in the project that I was working. I was doing a project at Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. So the choice was either continue there, or uh, get a job. And campus interviews meant most of the responses I received was, uh, we don't feel comfortable you working in chemical plants late in the night because it's all shift work. So whenever there's a desktop role available, we will get in touch with you. Now, desktop role is all about computers and IT. I had not studied anything IT related until then. So in the time that I had, I then moved on to do a diploma in e-commerce. E-commerce was like just about starting at that time. Um, then got a job at as a developer in a healthcare company in Bangalore. And then life had something else planned for me. So got married, came to UK, uh, and personal circumstances, I couldn't work for some time. That then became the sole point. I was neither a new graduate, I was not someone who had a lot of experience to get a job. So there began a new episode of job hunting, which took a long, long time, a couple of years, to be honest, getting into it. And then eventually, when I did get back, it was a job in testing, and that's how I landed there. And there's been no looking back ever since.
Interesting. You said that you did your chemical engineering from Bangalore. Uh, so Bangalore, obviously, you and I have spoken, and our common thread is Bangalore University, because now in Karnataka, no, the Bangalore University does not offer an engineering degree. It is VTU that offers the engineering degree. So to meet somebody from Bangalore University as an engineer was indeed a pleasure. So that's our common thread, which and our colleges were like neighboring colleges,
Yes.
a few kilometers apart, but still in the neighborhood. So
Yeah.
that is also something interesting.
Yeah.
So so from Bangalore to UK, from chemical engineering to testing is quite interesting. You said there is no looking back. But have you worked in a situation where you are, or in a project where you are dealing with some chemical engineers, but you are trying to do kind of a testing job for them?
Unfortunately, no, I've not had that. I've always been on a lookout. The closest I've come to working is a healthcare sector, or social care sector, but nothing to do with chemical industry as such. Ideal would be something like a pharmaceutical or like a GSK to work with, but yeah, no, someday.
Well, hopefully it happens. Well, okay. So my first question, okay, we've spoken about it offline, so let me ask you this. We saw a recent video from one of my other guests at TesterSpeak, Marius Franco.
Yes.
And he said testing is in a bad shape. Do you agree?
No, I don't. I don't agree because I've seen the growth there has been from the little time that I've been there. So I'm not even talking about many years. Even the last decade, if you've seen, the growth has been really huge, leaps and bounds. But I wouldn't say it's in its best shape yet. There's a lot more to do. There's a lot more to grow. And one part, I agree to what he said, which is we are shallow. I totally agree to that. Bad shape, no, definitely not.
Well,
Leaders these days who are bringing about a huge change.
no, go ahead.
Sorry? No, I meant there are so many leaders today who are bringing about a huge change in how it's looked as a profession. It's how it's done, how what do we the what where why everything is being looked at, and that's what I meant earlier about the test chat community. We're not accepting things as it is, we're questioning it, we are trying to understand why rather than just be complacent and say that's how it's always been. We're not there yet.
I have a slightly different perspective on that one, especially with regards to the test chat community. I will tell you that there is a lot that is hidden, and I will give you some statistics. So there are more than 1,600 members, but active members actively participating are around 195.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what Telegram statistics show me. And out of which the 195, there are about 105 or 110 who post regularly. So, so what you're talking about is 110 members constantly questioning stuff, arguing, debating out of 1600 plus. And I get from what Marius was trying to say, the conclusion that I draw is that this fact, the remaining 1500, we just accept, we just listen, we don't make noise. We are passive in nature. Okay, that's the conclusion that I draw. That you know, while we understand that testing is about questioning things, making things better, I also see that the response that a community like this should get, or people should talk about it, isn't there. That's point number one. Point number two, I agree with Marius on the fact when he said that testing is in bad shape, really, because today you start any discussion on testing on a global platform, or if you look at, for example, if you look at a simple agenda of any testing conference, except for some really good ones, you will see topics. I mean, people are not talking about the craft, they're talking about automation tools, languages. Where is the craft? And that's exactly what Marius was referring to. So that's where my agreement is.
Yes.
So I would want a bit of elaboration on your point
Okay.
to understand why you think it's the other way around, or it's different.
Okay. I'll answer your second question first, and I'll come back to the first one.
Mhm.
Um, I agree to what Marius says, but yet disagree to a part of what he says, right? I agree that it is shallow. We are only talking about shifting left. We're only talking about very, very superficial, at a very a thin layer of testing, which is test pyramids, automation. Automation is just a tool. It's the small, really small part of the whole craft of it. We are talking about test cases. We're talking about the layers of testing. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a huge craft below that, which has is unnoticed by most members, I would say, but then it's slowly changing, right? A lot of people these days are bringing about that change, whether it is the science of the craft, like Maria's talking recently, you hosting it in test chat is one small way of bringing awareness. It can, there are so many other conferences that are happening, even if it is one or two conference that is there that brings about this awareness, it leads to another 10 people thinking about it, and that thought then becomes learning then leads to action. That it The change is slow. It's not going to be a quick, I talk about 2 words and that change comes along. That doesn't happen. It takes time. Coming back to your first point about Telegram numbers, I am one of the culprits who joins and keeps quiet, who I probably am not so active in it.
You are
And
by
no, I'm
by
starting to.
comparable standards, yeah.
I'm starting to. I've had my baby steps, um, but for whatever reasons it is, it's I'm not as active as most members are. There are some who are really active, who are really helping out. There are some who agree, disagree, question very actively. Then there are some who only come to ask questions when they want something resolved in their current place of work. And then there are some who keep quiet. Now, I agree, everyone needs to get involved, but even the passive members, I think, get value. Yes, they. This is something I was told some time back. By being passive, you're being very selfish, and that's what brought about change in me, where I started becoming a little more active. But not everyone still thinks about it that way. That's another one that we need to be talking about in the community. Just being passive is you're withholding what you know to yourself. Share it, bring it out. But I understand there are reasons people have, whether it can be they're not comfortable being out, they don't feel it safe enough to ask, or maybe they don't feel they know enough to talk about, or there might be innumerable reasons. One thing is for sure, whether passive or active, they're learning. If they've taken that step to join the community, that itself is proof enough to say that they want to learn or know about something. That's the first step. They're there. Now, passively, they're listening means that they might not be active, but they're reading through the comments, they're reading through the discussions. So somewhere, sometime, the knowledge that they've acquired or the comments that they've read will come of use, and they will remember that. It's personal experience as well, so I know it well. And I am one of the culprits who has been passive for a long, long time.
Well, baby steps always welcome.
Yes.
Okay. How did we learn to walk? It took baby steps, right?
Yeah.
And that's how we learn to walk. So baby steps are always welcome.
Yeah.
But you'll be surprised to know that more than 500 out of the 1600 odd are people who haven't even read the messages in the group for at least a month, because their last seen is a month ago. or a month and a half ago, some 2 months ago. One one person, it is like 5 months ago. So there are people. You said that no, it is proof enough. Well, not in every case. Okay, some people join because they fear that they feel that sudden uh, rush. Oh, this looks cool. They join and then they forget about it. Okay, and I was speaking to Mahesh a short while ago in a live discussion, and then he mentioned it is that sense of instant gratification
Yeah.
by joining, and that is once that moment passes, they don't even care to look back. Okay, and that is the unfortunate reality that we see in the group. And by the way, I'm using the group just as an example. This is more like a sample of what happens around
Yeah.
us.
No, there has been studies, right, about Netflix, for example. There was a group of people who were given asked to pick three movies that keep it in their list, and then of what they will watch immediately. And most people picked the easy ones to watch immediately. Then they were given a choice to put three movies in a list that they would watch someday, watch not immediately though. They picked some of the ones that were not those easygoing movies, some of the really good ones where they have to think, and uh, it's interesting, and it's not something that you can just sit down and listen to, watch a movie. Uh, and when they were given a choice to have a list of easy recommendations and the really big, good ones, uh, 70% of them said they will watch the easygoing one immediately because that was instant gratification. I will watch it another time when I have time. I will. It's the same as like the other day in the test chat I was saying about uh, you give someone who's dieting, you give them a junk food and a healthy fruit. You will always, most often, you do pick up the junk food saying, I need this right now, but I will eat healthy. I will eat healthy tomorrow. So it's pushing that. It's just human nature. So coming back to this Telegram chat that you were saying, I think even if you made a difference to one person, you've achieved what it is. And
Yeah.
I think you're making a difference to more than one, hundreds of them. So it's okay.
Well,
It's okay if some of them are not active. It's okay. Someday they will come back.
thank you. We're just trying to put our effort and see how far we get. This has been like this for some time now, so I guess that there is a pattern to this. So anybody can do testing,
Yes.
right? Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Um, yeah, anybody can do testing if you put in the efforts and you have uh, that you want to do it. I've had
Effort
this
for what?
argument once. I've had this argument once with someone. Just as I'd become a test lead, and there was a we were hiring for someone. Um, one of the contractors in the company came and asked me, uh, "Are you looking for someone in your team? I have a candidate for you." And I said, "Yeah, sure. Send me the details." And then he says, "Well, she doesn't have any experience in testing." So I said, "What does she do?" He said, "She's a chef in a very very well known restaurant." I
Mhm.
said, "Okay, so what's the why the move and why testing?" He said, "Well, anybody can do testing. I mean, what's the big deal? The chef life is very short, and it's time for her to move on. So the best thing is to get into IT, and the biggest door that's open to get into IT is testing, and anybody can do testing. I could so offended by that when I heard that, because I was like, what? And then he says, well, it's just all you have to do is follow a sheet of test cases, and then you
Go
run it, raise a
quickly.
bug, and go home. That's it. It's very simple. I was like, okay. No, anybody can't do testing. It's this, anybody can do testing, but there are caveats. There's about what are you willing to give in as well. It's not just about I want to change roles and get into testing. The same way as this person who's a chef who wants to get into testing, if I change it the other way around, I'm a good cook. Does it make me a chef?
Probably
Uh,
not.
no, it won't make me a good chef, because there's much more to it. I can cook for two people. That doesn't mean, and I can cook good food doesn't mean I can cook for uh, X number of people in a restaurant. That
Right.
it's not. You have to learn the techniques. You have to learn how it is working in a professional environment. You have to learn a lot more things once you're there. It's the same way. You want to get into testing, that's fine. You can come from anywhere. Anybody can do testing, but then there's an effort, there's a growth curve that needs to be crossed. It's not just about running a test case. And that um, idea is, I think we need to change that. That's really important to change. And another one that I heard is testing is really good for women, and women who have families. Uh, and the reasoning behind that is uh, it's uh, it's best for women because you can just raise a couple of bugs and go home and relax, while the developers are really busy fixing it. Like, which world are we from here?
Well, that is common, isn't it?
It is common,
So what? So
unfortunately.
okay,
Yes, it is.
let's say I am one of those chauvinist people, which I'm not, of course, giving this sentence to you. Okay, testing is for women. What would you tell me in response?
I think they're being very ignorant, to be honest. If they are not, they don't know what testing is, and the sad part is that these are people who are in working as developers and testers, and when testers say that, that hurts more. When people who are working in the industry and aware of how it works, and they say that, I think that's the worst. um, Someone else who doesn't, who's completely new to this, is different. It's, they're just ignorant. But
So how
yeah,
do you change this perspective?
to I think that's where we need to bring awareness. And secondly, I think we need to be proud of what we do, and
Right.
we, when we have respect for our craft, that's when it then spreads around to other people. Most often what I've seen is not in test chat, but in general, while I'm recruiting, while I'm interviewing, why do you want to why do you want to become a tester? It's like they don't really want to become a tester, but it's just like a path to get into it, and then I'll change, I'll become someone else. Once I become a tester, then I can become something else. So my question to them would be then, what have you done that, if you think it's bad, if you think it's so bad, one, why are you here? And secondly, if you are here and you're complaining that it's not respectable, not uh, so good, not it's not such a good profession to be in, then what have you done to change it?
Right.
And what makes you think that the other profession is good? You've not even been there. And grass looks always greener on the other side. Try that, and then you'll know what it is.
Right. I think this perspective has been there for a long time, and there is one solution. and I want to get your perspective on that. Why do you think learning, okay, and not just shallow learning, like reading articles to fix a problem in my automation code, that's also learning. So, not that. When I talk about learning, I want to go deep into testing. I want to invest in learning something. Okay. I don't know how many out of those books behind you are free. Okay. But I'm just to put it in context. Again, coming back from the conversation with Mahesh, where we also touched upon something similar. Say, okay, I have noticed that there is a reluctance in people in the testing community to take the opportunity of learning something if it is, say, for example, a paid event or a paid course, or they would want to, you recommend books to them, they'll say no, they're expensive. Do you have a free version, a PDF or something like that? So what do you think?
About learning, yeah, yes, I've seen reluctance. A few people who've come saying they want to get a job, and like I've been in that place where you're trying for a job and you're not getting it. What can I do? Uh, and you suggest read this or read these blogs. They're really good, or do this course. It's really good. Uh, no, I'm not into that. I just want to get a job. That yeah, I've seen that. Uh, I've always been reading, and they're all paid, by the way. And, no, many of them are paid. Some of them are from the current company that I am. They have a big learning budget, and I'm making full use of it. So that's what
That
it
is
is.
excellent, and that is a great tip
Yeah,
for testers. Be aware the learning budget of your company and make use of it.
that's a big priority for me. It has been a good big priority for me. But coming back to about paid or unpaid, it doesn't matter how. There's a lot of materials these days available. uh, there's too much information today available. People writing blogs, videos, webinars, talks. uh, we must make use of it, because only then it can change. Otherwise our perspective is remains very limited. And if we don't improve, then we're making the same mistakes again and again. We're being as inefficient uh, continuously. And if that doesn't change, then that's where it leads to testing is not so good profession to be in. Uh, so the more you learn, the more you read about other people, how what their journey has been, how they grow and how they learn. Read more about achievements. Read more about be the testing craft itself, attending courses, attending conferences and seminars.
Right.
It it brings not just awareness, but I also, uh, when I've been to some of them, I felt like, yeah, I've done something nice.
Yeah.
Most often we are in our own world. When you're working, you go to your company. It's the same set of people. You're doing your day job like a normal 9 to whatever time, and then you're in that bubble. When you go to conferences, that's when your vision expands. That's when you
Right.
see how different people have achieved something differently. That's when you start looking at one, get confirmation of what you've achieved is good, or and what can you improve upon, what does the future look like, and what should I be investing myself in for the future.
Right.
Otherwise we're just being stagnant where we are, and that's not useful for anyone.
Well, I couldn't agree more with what you said. I think people need to understand the significance of what learning can do. Well, I've got a couple of women centric questions for you.
Okay.
Because you spoke about women being undervalued. So, being a woman, what differentiating factor do you bring to your team?
To my team, um, I think I have good listening skills, uh, and I try to understand from their perspective uh, when there are problems. So I don't know. I've never thought about it as a woman thing or a man thing. I think you either do it or you don't do it. Uh, I've worked with both women and men managers, and it's
So,
yeah,
so, so
women are also empathetic about uh, with their teams, I think.
let me just rephrase the question. Okay. Have you ever felt that as a woman you are treated differently? Number one. Okay. You're treated differently. Uh, Number two, the kind of opportunities that you should get, you haven't got. And number three, if given an opportunity, you have really brought a difference which shows that you are equally capable, if not more, than if a man was selected to do that job.
I've not been in a situation other than when I completed my engineering and I was applying. That's the only time I've been told you can't do it. So professionally, I've not been in this situation where I was told that I'm a woman, so I can't do this or that. Not in my working career, definitely. Instead, I think it's been the other way around, where uh, be it my managers or my peers, colleagues who worked with me have gone the other side to say nothing stops you from doing anything. In fact, we put our own barriers. At least I was at that time when I was doing. Um, so no, I've been in I don't know, probably I've been lucky to have worked with the people that I've worked with. From getting, I've worked with both women and men managers in these years, and each one has been life changing for me, I would say. One of them was built the best test foundations for me. It wasn't about tools, it wasn't about automation, it wasn't about um, writing test cases. It was the test craft as it is, and the people skills, and how do you approach people, how do you look at testing, and how do you actually do what is testing. She gave me that. Then I had another one who didn't really who identified what I was good at. It wasn't executing test cases or just testing itself. He saw that I had much more to offer than just be this automation tester who wrote code, and showed me the direction that I was capable of. Then there was another one who showed me it wasn't just a team that I was good at. I could work very well across boundaries as well, which is distributed teams within UK, uh, setting up teams in India, setting up teams in Portugal. So it I've learned a variety of things, and I've worked with different people from different countries now as well, and everywhere I've got the equal good respect. I think if you're good at explaining what you're doing and show your enthusiasm, show you're passionate about what you do, it comes across. And I don't think any man or woman can put you down at that point.
It is a very important point, and for men, I would say it is very important to understand what you just said, because a lot of times I have seen that even though we don't mean to, but people make such comments or makes a statements that amounts literally putting women down. Okay, and there are unnecessary comparisons which is not appreciable at all. And I mean, that was one of the reasons why the test chat community came up with the idea of providing or trying to do something for women. Not that they need a platform, but because we said, okay, no, as women, I think it's important that we realize this fact that they need to be celebrated more and more, and so we created that platform. So, I mean, despite doing all of that, why don't we see many women leaders in the testing space? Is there something which is kind of stopping them before they reach that position?
Yeah, I think uh, at least from what I've seen around me, it's mostly when it comes to family, children, we put our own limiting factors of this is what I can do, and that guilt factor always there, saying how yeah, going to work itself is a big guilt factor, leaving a family behind or not giving enough attention. Um, and secondly, I think it's just a glass roof that we need to start breaking ourselves.
Right.
We need to understand that, at least I know for myself, it, I had other things as priorities and never thought I could achieve more. It was more that came from the people I worked with who said, no, you are capable of that. You don't have to worry about all these things. And what's stopping you from being the leader? There were times when I was thinking, no, I don't think I can do this. But it's, I think the right kind of support around you is needed to be leaders, uh, and also support from other leaders, that encouragement and pulling and helping you to be leaders of the future. So um, yeah, I don't see why not.
Cool. Okay, we've had quite a bit of serious discussion, so let's change the direction of the conversation, and let's do a quick rapid fire with you. You've seen the episodes, and you know the drill. So,
Yeah,
um,
I'm having
five
a googly
seconds.
question today then.
Sorry,
I'm having a googly question then.
depends. Do you have a question for me, rather? Is that how you? You could do that. Well, of course, I should be ready then. If you want to do that, or you want to change the order. And okay, so I know this is going to sound really weird, but I have this question, okay, because I've heard a lot from people. Okay, a dosa, a dosa Would you prefer to eat it with chutney or dip it in your tea and eat?
Tea is comfort. Anytime.
So are you one of
I love
those
doing
people?
it with tea.
So are you one of those people who dips the dosa in tea
I'll
and
dip anything in tea. I love tea. I'm a huge addict of tea.
see? Well, I know people are going to go nuts as to how did I I think of that question.
No, we do eat dosa with tea many times, especially the leftover cold ones.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, okay. So, if given a choice of having your favorite breakfast from around the world, what would it be?
I don't eat breakfast, so wrong question.
You don't eat breakfast? Isn't that supposed to
Uh,
be the most
it
important
is,
meal of the
but
day?
I no, I've not been eating for many years. I'm not a breakfast person at all.
Okay, question changed.
But if I really, if you had to push me and ask me what I would love to eat, I'd like idli, the fresh made out of the steam and onto your plate. Nothing beats that.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't like breakfast. I'll eat it any other time.
lunch.
Yeah,
Idli for lunch. Well, not a bad idea.
anytime.
Okay, and once this whole COVID thing gets over, where are you going?
India, home,
More than a year not visited.
2 years. So
2 years.
2 years.
That's
I'm
torture.
waiting. I'm waiting. It's
That's
like
torture. That's torture.
I'm even missing the Sopu person and the milkman these days. So yeah, it's been 2 years, and the minute the time the gates open, international gates open, I'm there.
Well, and what would be your favorite sport? I know you played some already. So,
Sport is I used to play tennis in my old life, and I'm a
old
cyclist.
life.
Yeah, and I'm a cyclist, or I was a cyclist. Uh,
Come to
did
Netherlands. It's a good place for cyclists.
Yeah, yeah. I went a couple of years back, did a triathlon, so that was very nice doing that. Um, what else? I do swimming as well. Again, not so much these days, but yeah, quite a bit. I love hiking more than anything, I think.
So, what was your last hiking destination?
Last time I was in India, we went to Valley of Flowers, which is good with
Nice,
kids and parents. So,
nice, nice. No, that's a good hike. That's definitely a good place to be. Okay, you've done well. So, good. Unfortunately, I'm not Karan Johar, so I don't have a hamper with me.
oh,
yeah,
maybe when I come to Netherlands, I will get one.
yeah. You are. I have to come to Netherlands then. And then, as soon as international travel begins, you go to India via Netherlands. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
well, it's just 1 hour away from London, so it's not a big deal. Well, in the pre-COVID era, I've taken a few impromptu trips to London. It's like
Oh,
morning, yeah, morning. I'm having coffee, and then suddenly speaking to a friend, and I'm like, okay, see you in the afternoon. I'm like, boom.
come
That
to London then.
so
Come
we've
visit
done that.
us. Yeah.
We've done that. I mean, but I don't know when we are going to see that time again. When we plan such random meetings, just catch a flight, 1 hour. Okay, it's like
Nice.
I go from one corner of the Netherlands to another corner. It's like 2 hours by train if I were to take the train, or even if You drive, it'll be 1.5 hours at least from one end to the other end. I mean, sometimes even more. But London is so close. It's like it's not even 1 hour actually flying time. So it doesn't feel like it's. Yeah, of course. At the airport, if you take the count, okay, you have to check in, you have to wait for
Yeah,
boarding, and that's the only time which is kind of irritating. Otherwise, the travel is cool.
yeah. So
And
next
that's
time
where,
you're in London, you're visiting us.
of course,
Yeah,
of course, sure. And the same applies to you. So anytime you are in the Netherlands,
definitely.
yeah, you. Okay, let's talk a little more about testing. So if given an opportunity
Mhm.
to, you know, do something like, okay, you have the entire power, you can change the way things are done. If you have that power, if you had that authority, what is the one thing that you will change in testing and the one thing you would change in testers?
In testers, I would change the attitude with which we look at ourselves and look at what we do. And that attitude comes only from learning, and from becoming more aware of uh, not accepting things as they are. This is how it was, so that's how I'm doing it. This is how it works. That's why I'm doing this. That needs to change. You need to be more vocal about stuff. Say, educate someone who doesn't know how it's done. Things like the 100% coverage syndrome. Uh, so yeah, we can't just accept just because someone says do it like this. I want this automated completely. I want this written as test cases completely. I want it to be tested like this. I'll give you 10 minutes, finish testing it. That needs to change.
Or testing is easy.
Yeah. Yeah, testing is easy when the criteria is different. It's very easy. When it's just to look at something, then yeah, it's easy.
Anybody can do testing, it's easy.
Of
So
course, you're just looking at something. So yeah, anybody can do testing. And sorry, what was the other question? Testing.
in testing, what would you change? In testers, what would you change? So in testers,
I think it's interlinked. So once you change the people, the craft itself will start changing as well. It's more like one of the stories I'd read about the scientists having taking these 5 monkeys and putting it in a room with a banana at the top. And every time the monkey is tried to climb the ladder, the shower sprinkler was on and the monkeys ran away. So this happened continuously. And then the monkey stopped. Every time a monkey tried to climb up, the other monkeys would pull it down, saying, "Don't go there," because the sprinklers would start. Then the scientists replaced one monkey at a time, slowly. And then eventually, when all the initial 5 monkeys were replaced by new monkeys, none of them dared to climb up the ladder to go towards. They didn't know why, but still they didn't climb the ladder. That it's like we, this is how it was. So we just carry on like that. So we shouldn't be that. That complacency should go away, and that's when change will come along.
I think that's a beautiful example and a very well articulated response to that question. Well, I was going to ask you, but I ask you more questions on psychology. I think we can squeeze that in. Okay, let's go a little over time. Okay, maybe a few more minutes. So you've been reading psychology, right? Or
I'm new to it. I won't say I'm an expert. I'm very new to it.
So what have you been reading?
I think Courage to be Disliked was the latest one that I was reading about Adlerian psychology and how it also touches. It's mainly about why we do how we do, um, be it jobs, looking promotions, or uh, parenting, or be it friends, why we are vocal about some things, why we don't talk about some things. I'd like understanding. People are complicated.
Oh, yeah.
Understanding people is even more complicated. And when you're in a leadership position, when you're in management, it's important to understand people and where they're coming from, the context from which, what drives somebody and doesn't. I think it started from there, and that's how I started getting into reading more about psychology and understanding. Um, where does it come from, or what makes you do something or doesn't. uh, so it's been interesting, the Adlerian psychology, and I'd like to read more about it.
Well, it definitely has deep roots, and one of the connections is to something that even Maria spoke about, or
Yeah, yeah,
ontology,
yeah. I
connecting.
don't know what that means, to be honest. That one episode is where I had to stop every few minutes, collect the words, and read up about the words, and then come back to and then rewind and understand what that meant. So it's been very, very interesting.
Well, for me, it was a little easier because I've spoken to Marius in the past, so I know that he's, you know,
Yeah, he's
talking
another
from
level. Yeah,
talking from a very very deep rooted science perspective, and that's why I was prepared. And as I was doing my research on him and on his work, I came across these terms already, and I did my homework, did my dictionary reading and making notes, and so I was a little comfortable talking to him. But yeah, that was a very very interesting one of the uh, very interesting episodes of TesterSpeak. Um,
definitely.
and it has uh, a very deep connection with me as well because uh, I have been studying psychology for quite some time. I picked up a course many years ago, uh, got trained in psychology for quite some time, but could not finish up due to a personal situation that came up. Then that love was always there, and then because for me, the best thing to learn or to understand in this world is people. There are so many of us. Each of us is different.
Yeah,
How do we behave? How do we react? Okay, why do we do something? Okay, simple example, I travel a lot by public transport. So at the train station, when there is an announcement that the train is cancelled, the reactions of all the people standing in the platform is different.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, some people they run and go to a different platform, catch an alternate train. Some people, you know, they abuse. Like, what the hell has happened? Why this? And the railways is always like this. And but there are some people who are just chilled out. Who are like, okay, that's fine. The next one will come. And even if the next one doesn't come, then I don't think
even when they announce that there's no train, there are some who stand and say, no, I'm sure it'll come.
yeah, and there are those people. So it's very interesting to study, and obviously everybody has a context, like you said. Everybody has a situation. So people who just run and change the platform, obviously they want to get home or wherever they're going to, and they don't want to be late because it's something really really important. And people who are like, okay, chilled out, I'll catch the next one. They're like, okay, they probably have nothing to do, nothing much interesting to do. Not nothing to do, but nothing much interesting to do. So yeah, situations are different, contexts are different, and that's what makes studying human behavior such a interesting subject.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's why, coupled with psychology, a little bit into sociology, anthropology is something that I'm trying to do. Of course, time constraints now, but yeah, that's always an ongoing activity, and it's not for. Thankfully, I'm not doing it for a degree. Otherwise, it would have been time bound and it would have been chaos. So I can do it at my own pace, learn. And what has also helped me is the Test to Speak episodes, because every single person has had a unique story to tell.
Yeah.
Every single person has been able to share some wisdom which has helped me understand, oh, this is how people can actually think. And
Mm.
this is a very interesting way of looking at things. Okay. And a lot of times I'm amazed with what some of people say. I like, for example, when we started this conversation, of course, I have spoken to you in the past. I know that you are calm and you take time to finish your sentences, not hurry up like me. Like if I am speaking at 150 words per minute, you are somewhere at 100 words per minute. You are slow and very clear about. So there is obviously, which depicts that there is a lot of clarity in your thought. Okay, which is a clear indication of that. So likewise, I mean, this was just an example. Likewise, with a lot of people, I have seen different character traits, and that is a learning for me. That helps in my the research that I'm doing. I make my own notes and then I go back and then think about it, process the information. So psychology definitely a great subject. People if and guess what? Testing is a social activity. Okay, it is not something.
Yes. Yes.
And so psychology and sociology plays a very important role. So even if you haven't thought about it, this is
Yes.
related to testing as well.
Yeah, because we live in an ecosystem. We don't live as a test team and in an on an island on our own. All the work that we do is related. It's working around people around us. So it's really, really important, and that's where I think communication is so important. I was reading up about. So while reading stories for children, I think I came across this, and afterwards I read a bit more about communication and the Cassandra curse that we have, and how important it is to say when we say what we say. If you don't communicate it in a clean, clear language with context and to the right person
Mhm.
at the right time, all of them are important. You say it at the wrong time, or you say it without influence to the wrong person, or don't say it clearly. It's like how Cassandra used to speak in Greek mythology.
Yeah.
All of that together, it's not going to help in any way. And that's often found in, when we talk about bug reports or reports that we do in, or when we say developers are not being helpful, or um, everything relates to that. It's how you build your connections and how you build your circle of influence around with the people that you work with, and how you communicate. And again, I'd say I've learned it from by making mistakes. It's not been like I've always been like this. It's I learn making mistakes, learning from them, reading up about them, and it's taken a whole. It has helped me settle down and be more pragmatic about stuff, rather than get worked up about somebody not fixing something, not giving me a build on time, or not giving enough time to test, or not fixing the bug that I raised, I think I've become more aware of why things happen, what are the reasons behind it. And once you get that, I think you're much more calmer towards what you want to achieve and how.
Yeah, I've been in situations where the project has been absolute anarchy, okay, chaos, and there are managers who are like, I asked you for this yesterday and it's still not ready, and you've still not done this, or this is not happening, blah blah blah. I mean, yes, we get it why you are getting so worked up, but obviously there is, like you said, there is a reason why things are happening, and getting worked up will not solve that. So focus your energies on getting the solution to the problem at hand rather than getting worked up. And for that, you need to stay calm, which is the most important thing. And I can tell you this, that I have had that backfire a few times. Not exactly backfire, but have a different reaction, because then people start thinking that, oh, I'm a passive guy.
Mm,
I don't respond. Okay. It's because I am calm, I'm not taking any action. It is not a sign of no response.
absolutely.
It may be a part of the plan that you don't say it now, you say it at the right time. And you just spoke about putting out things in the right way at the right time in front of the right people. Just by making some noise now, you might hog the limelight for those few seconds, but people will not pay attention.
It works short time, it works for the spur of the moment.
Mhm.
But when it comes to long term, the confidence that's built up with your uh, uh, with the with your colleagues, with the relationship that you build, that then becomes much thinner.
Right.
So, and the more we shout out or show our emotions in that way, it just becomes the other person may stop showing or saying what they want to, and that might be an important piece of information that's useful for you. So having that open communication is so much important, because
Right.
in anger, in a negative state, all that will happen is one person stops communicating, or uh, if there's someone scared of approaching you, then they may not say what they want to say, but they'll say what you want to hear, and that may not be the right thing for you. That may not help you in any way. So I'd rather hear it as it is, the reality, than hear something because they want me to hear it the way I want it to be.
Great.
Uh, so yeah, it's very important.
Right. Well, a very insightful discussion.
Thank
Uh,
you.
thank, thank you so much, Seema, for agreeing to do this. Okay, and for actually doing it. So, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing a lot of wisdom. I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. Lot of learning. Okay. I do not know, and I realized this just as I was speaking a little earlier, that because you were speaking a- at a much slower pace, I was trying to mirror your style,
Okay.
and I slowed down considerably. And because I am at least trained in that way to mirror the the, the other person. I am trained to do that, so it comes naturally to me. So when somebody is going ratatatatata, I will also go at that pace. Okay, and if somebody is like slow and calm, and my brain is now programmed. in that fashion. So that has happened, and I obviously see benefits of that. So I will try to practice on
Okay.
that, and maybe reach out to you for some training and
Oh my God,
some
no.
tips. Some tips. No, no, and I'm being serious because it's a part of communication, and sometimes what happens, and I'm sharing this personal example that I'm used to kind of speaking fast, and I fumble, and then I get conscious. Okay, once I if I fumble once, and then I'm like, shit. And this has happened to me, in fact, a couple of times during conference talks. So I'm going at a very brisk pace, and then suddenly I fumble, and then I lose it. Okay, somehow I managed to you know deal with the situation at that point of time, but it's never a good feeling,
Yeah.
and you don't want to be in that with that feeling for a long time. So that's something for me to work on, something for me to improve. Okay, fumbles happen. It's not like they don't, but how do we deal with those? How do I control my rate of speech is something that obviously I have to consciously work on as
Okay.
well. So yeah, thank you for getting me to think about it, because as you were speaking, I mentioned as well that you speak slowly, so which is a good thing. All right, I think we've
It's all
gone.
been mine, to be honest, talking to you. And yeah, I've been learning quite a lot from each and every one of you. So if in any way I can be of any help,
Oh, of
happy.
course, of course, of course. We've got some brilliant ideas lined up for you already. You will soon see me reach out to you for more. Okay, so thank you so much for giving your precious time this Saturday morning. I know weekends have a different agenda altogether, but thank you so much for doing this. The conversation could have gone on for uh, a lot more time, but I think you are one of those candidates who should be invited for a chapter two, uh, because there's lots to talk about. Okay, and now that we've discovered our interests in psychology, there's a lot of there's a lot of discussion
Absolutely.
around there's
Absolutely.
a lot of discussion around that, because there are some topics which I would like to talk to a lot of people about, and see what they feel, and getting different perspectives is something that I'm looking for. So, anyways, we'll plan that. Well, thank you,
Thank
and
you very much. Thank you.
enjoy a lot. Take care,
You
and
too.
see you in the test chat group.
Yeah, I'll be there. Thank you
All
very
right.
much. Have a
See you.
lovely weekend. See you. Bye.
See you. Bye bye.